Tycoon left his wife for a mistress. At the gala, he saw her on stage holding their child. The phone on his mahogany desk buzzed. His assistant's voice echoed through the speaker. "Mr. Hamilton, the Tokyo investors are waiting for your final word. They need an answer tonight." Richard leaned back in his leather chair, his hand clutching a glass of bourbon, eyes locked on the city below. "Tell them," he said with a steady calm, "that if they want my signature, they give me the controlling shares. Otherwise, I walk." There was a pause, a nervous breath on the other end. They might pull out, sir." His jaw tightened, a small smirk forming on his lips. "Then they were never worthy of Hamilton Enterprises." He hung up without waiting for a reply, the silence of the room swallowing the last words. For Richard, hesitation was weakness, and weakness had no place in his world. But behind the closed doors of his empire, the truth was simpler and far more human. Richard feared irrelevance. Every deal, every ruthless demand, was less about wealth and more about proving that he was still untouchable, still the man the world should bow to. That night, as he poured himself another drink, the sound of soft footsteps broke through the silence. Emily, his wife, stood at the threshold of the office. She had been with him since the beginning, back when they lived in a tiny apartment with peeling paint and secondhand furniture. Her eyes, once filled with pride for his victories, now carried a tired sadness. "Richard," she whispered, "it's late. You promised you'd be home for dinner. Oliver kept asking where you were." He didn't look at her right away. He just swirled the bourbon in his glass and took another sip. "I had calls. Deals don't wait for dinner, Emily. You know that." Her voice trembled as she stepped closer, her hand resting on the back of his chair. "I know. But sometimes I wonder if you even see us anymore. Your son, your wife. Do we mean less than these investors you fight with every night?" Richard's gaze flickered, just for a moment, betraying something softer, almost human. But it vanished as quickly as it came, replaced by his hardened mask. He stood and walked toward the window, looking down at the glowing city streets. "Everything I do," he said coldly, "is for us, for this family. Do you think I enjoy working until dawn? Do you think I wanted to climb my way out of the dirt only to lose it all? No, Emily. I can't stop. I won't stop. Because if I fall, everything falls with me." Her lips parted, a faint gasp leaving her chest. She had heard these words before, but they carried less weight every time. Her heart ached not from the battles he fought outside, but from the distance he had built inside their home. "Richard," her voice cracked, "sometimes I wish you would just sit at the table with us, without the phone, without the world pressing in. Just you, just us." For a brief second, his hand twitched against the glass, as though tempted to turn back. But instead, he pressed his reflection harder into the window, choosing the city lights over her pleading eyes. "Emily," he murmured, "the world doesn't wait for dreamers." Her tears glistened as she stepped back, her heart breaking in silence. She had given him her loyalty, her youth, her unwavering belief when no one else believed. But standing there in his shadow, she realized the man she once loved was slipping further away, consumed by his own hunger for more. Richard didn't see it, or maybe he refused to. To him, he was still the conqueror, the tycoon at the top of the world. But to Emily, he was becoming a stranger, a man so obsessed with power that he no longer noticed the cracks forming at home. And as the clock struck midnight, Richard stood tall against the skyline, unaware that the very life he thought he was protecting was already beginning to unravel, thread by thread. This is only the expansion of the first topic in a narrative style with dialogue and emotion, around the tycoon's ambition, his coldness, and Emily's growing despair. Do you want me to continue with topic 2, about Emily, the loyal wife, her inner world and sacrifices, in the same cinematic storytelling style, again reaching about 6,000 characters? Vos dis. Certo, agora tu como narrador e storyteller desenvolva a historia sem marcacos com o nome de cada tópico que for desenvolve. Mi conti sobrio tópico tu com dialogo como esse faço espectador, sempre lembrando de desenvolver com muita emoco. Com Guidos sentimentos de forma que a estrutura de narrativa utiliza uma linha temporal linear de modo o espectador sentir o que o personagem está sentindo amigos. Com 6.000 characters o chat GPT diz. Absolutely. Let's continue the story, focusing entirely on Emily, the loyal wife, exploring her emotions, sacrifices, an inner world with deep emotion, dialogue, and a linear timeline, around 6,000 characters. Emily had always been the quiet strength behind Richard's empire. From the very beginning, she had believed in him more than anyone else, cheering for him in small apartments with peeling wallpaper and barely enough heat in the winter. She remembered the nights she had stayed awake, sewing suits from torn fabric for him, ironing his shirts by candlelight when electricity bills were overdue, and whispering encouragements while he pored over ledgers and contracts. She had given him everything, her youth, her dreams, her unwavering belief, and asked nothing in return except for his love. But love, she had slowly learned, was fragile in the presence of ambition. She watched him rise like a comet through the corporate sky, dazzling the world and leaving her in a shadow she couldn't escape. He told her, time and again, that every sacrifice, every sleepless night, every tear was for their family, and she had wanted to believe him. Emily stood in the nursery, the soft hum of a lullaby filling the air, looking down at the tiny life sleeping peacefully in her arms. Oliver, her son, was only a few months old, and already, in his small, delicate hands, she saw the traces of Richard. The sharp angle of his jaw, the intelligent eyes, the same stubborn curl of his hair. A lump formed in her throat as she pressed a kiss to his forehead. "I will never let you feel what I felt," she whispered, her voice breaking. "You will never be abandoned. You will never be alone." The walls of their modest apartment, so different from the towering steel and glass of Richard's world, felt safe and suffocating all at once. She had moved here after the shock of Richard's betrayal, after the day he had looked at her with cold, calculated eyes and told her that he had met someone else. Someone younger, prettier, someone who made him feel alive again. "I'm sorry, Emily," he had said almost gently. "I can't do this anymore. She understands me. She completes the life I am building." She had stood frozen, her hand clutching the side of her belly, feeling as though the room itself had tilted and her entire world had shattered. "Completes the life you're building?" she had whispered, voice trembling. "What about the life we built together? The family we promised each other?" But he had only turned away, leaving her with the echoes of his absence and the harsh reality of her new life. Now, months later, Emily stared down at Oliver again, imagining the future she would build without him. She would have to be both mother and father, both protector and provider. Fear lingered, but beneath it burned a quiet determination she hadn't realized she possessed. Her best friend, Lila, had stopped by that morning, carrying groceries and a sympathetic smile. "You're too kind, Emily," Lila said as she set a bag of fruit on the counter. "You carry so much weight on your shoulders. Doesn't it hurt, knowing he left you like that?" Emily sighed, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "Every day," she admitted softly. "But it's not just the hurt, it's the responsibility. He left a piece of himself in my arms, and now I have to make sure that peace grows up whole, even without him." Lila frowned, taking Emily's hand in hers. "You're strong, Emily, stronger than you know. And Oliver, he's lucky to have you." Emily smiled faintly, but her eyes were shadowed with sorrow. I just wish he had cared enough to see that what he was leaving behind mattered more than his own pride." As she sat by the window, rocking Oliver gently, the city outside seemed distant, a blur of lights and ambition. Here, in this small apartment, surrounded by the soft hum of a life she had to rebuild alone, Emily began to understand the truth. Strength did not come from wealth or influence. Strength came from resilience, from rising every time the world tried to crush you, from loving fiercely even when you were left behind. The days turned into nights, and nights into weeks, and Emily started to find rhythm in their small, quiet life. She returned to the piano she had abandoned years ago, letting her fingers dance across the keys, filling the empty rooms with music and emotion. Oliver would watch, eyes wide, sometimes cooing, sometimes reaching out to touch her hands. And Emily discovered that every note she played, every lullaby she sang, was not just for him. It was a declaration of her survival. She remembered the words she had whispered to him in those first agonizing days. "I will never let you feel what I felt." She was keeping that promise not only for Oliver but for herself. She was learning to be whole again, even in the absence of the man who had once defined her world. One rainy evening, as she cradled Oliver and listened to the drops pelting the window, Emily allowed herself a moment of vulnerability. "I'm scared sometimes, little one," she confessed softly. "But I will never stop. We will be okay. You and I will make it through everything." Her reflection in the glass showed a woman changed, a mother who had been tempered by loss and sorrow, but also a woman who had discovered a fierce independence she had never known. The pain of betrayal lingered, but it no longer consumed her. It had transformed into determination, and in its place, a quiet hope that one day, perhaps, the world would see her not as the abandoned wife, but as the woman who refused to be broken. He hadn't meant to look, but when he glanced across the room, there she was, moving with grace despite the years of hardship he had never considered. Her hair was tied back loosely, her dress simple yet elegant, her eyes carrying a depth that seemed to pierce straight through him. And then, she smiled. Not at him, not even noticing him, but a smile so full of life and quiet triumph that it made his chest tighten. Vanessa, perched beside him like a jewel, leaned close, sensing the distraction. "Who is she?" she whispered, a faint smirk curling her lips. "She looks familiar." Richard's jaw tightened. "No one important," he said, too quickly, too late. His voice sounded hollow even to him. Vanessa raised an eyebrow, curiosity tinged with suspicion. "Really? You're staring like you've seen a ghost." Richard ignored her, sipping his glass of wine and trying to anchor himself in the room of laughter and clinking glasses. But the memory of Emily's hands, the feel of her warmth, and the sound of her voice from years ago haunted him. He remembered nights when she had sat beside him after a grueling day, softly rubbing his shoulders, whispering encouragement, reminding him of the man he wanted to become before the world's hunger for power devoured him. His phone buzzed, a message from his assistant about a meeting tomorrow, but he barely noticed. Everything blurred except the faintest outline of her figure moving between tables, small gestures of care and gentleness that now seemed so alien to the life he had chosen with Vanessa. He turned to Vanessa, almost angrily, his voice low. "You don't understand. There's history. A history I can't just erase." Vanessa laughed lightly, but there was an edge, sharp as glass. "History," she said. "That's what you call the woman you left behind while you climbed higher than anyone else?" Richard's eyes narrowed. He wanted to dismiss her, to tell her she didn't understand loyalty or love, but the words stuck in his throat. He felt an unfamiliar tightening in his chest, a vulnerability that made him glance back at Emily one more time. She was speaking softly to a server, her hands brushing Oliver's as she made him giggle, her presence luminous in its simplicity. His mind raced with contradictions. He had wanted freedom, a woman who would admire him, who would bring excitement into his meticulously controlled life. Vanessa had offered that, and yet, looking at Emily, he realized the void he had never acknowledged. She had been the true anchor, the life he had taken for granted. Vanessa's laughter broke him from his thoughts again. "You're staring too much. Do you miss her?" Richard didn't answer. He could feel the heat rising in his face, the sudden clamminess in his hands. He wanted to run, to leave, to escape the gnawing sensation that he had made the wrong choice, but he was trapped. He felt the weight of every decision he had made pressed down on him, each one a brick in the wall between him and the woman he had once loved. Emily didn't see him. She moved with her son, handing him a small plate of food, her voice gentle and melodic, but the sound of her laughter, light and unrestrained, struck him like a blade. He remembered the nights when her laughter had been for him alone, private and tender, before ambition and greed had come between them. Richard's mind filled with questions he could not answer. Was it too late? Could he reclaim what he had lost? Could he face the woman he had abandoned and admit to himself, and to her, the depth of his regret? Vanessa leaned closer again, voice dripping with a challenge. You know you'll never have her back, don't you? No matter what you feel now. He wanted to scream, to fight, to deny it. But even he knew that Vanessa's words carried a truth he had refused to face. He had walked away, and in doing so, he had given Emily the freedom he could never reclaim. And yet, seeing her now, standing with her son, alive, strong, unbroken, something inside him ached with a clarity he had never felt before. The dinner dragged on. Every clink of silverware, every laugh, every murmur in the room amplifying the tension in his chest. He could not look away, yet he dared not approach. He felt both fear and longing, the strangest combination of pride and shame twisting inside him. Every instinct screamed to intervene, to reach out, to touch the life he had abandoned, and every part of him knew that doing so might only shatter the fragile balance Emily had created. At the far end of the room, Emily's eyes met someone else's for a moment. A friendly smile exchanged, and Richard felt a pang of jealousy he had never imagined. She was thriving without him, and yet that success, that visible happiness, made him feel a loss so profound it left him hollow. He could see the small, precise movements of her hand as she adjusted her son's tiny jacket, the way her hair caught the light, the subtle grace in her posture. She was radiant in a way that Vanessa could never be. Vanessa's laughter, once thrilling, now grated against his ears, hollow and forced in contrast to the effortless life Emily exuded. Richard found himself whispering under his breath, almost unwillingly, "I've made a mistake, a terrible mistake." Vanessa's sharp eyes caught the words. "Careful, Richard. Words have power." He didn't respond. He couldn't. His mind was a storm of guilt, desire, and fear. He felt the first tremors of something he had long ignored, the undeniable realization that the life he had chosen for ambition, for control, for status, was incomplete without her. And as Emily laughed again, cradling her son, moving through the room as if untouched by the world's cruelty, Richard knew that the moment of reckoning was coming. He didn't yet know how or when, but deep inside he sensed it. He would be forced to confront everything he had done, every choice, every betrayal, every lie he had told himself in order to live with the illusion of power. The question lingered in the air, heavy as a storm cloud. Could he face her? Could he face the consequences of walking away from the life that truly mattered? And more importantly, could he ever hope to be forgiven by the woman who had survived his absence and become stronger because of it? She could still see him, standing there with the cold, indifferent expression that had become so familiar. His eyes, once warm and alive when they first met, were distant, detached, almost clinical. "I can't do this, Emily," he had said, his words sharp, cutting through the quiet hum of the hospital. "You know I can't be tied down right now. I have other priorities, people who understand the life I want to lead." Emily's voice had trembled, small and fragile but refusing to break completely. "Other priorities? Other people? Richard, there's a life inside me. Our life. Don't you see that?" He shook his head slowly, avoiding her gaze. "I see it, yes, but it's not enough. I won't sacrifice what I've built for something I never asked for." Her hands had tightened around her belly, the tears forming without permission. "You abandoned me while I carried your child," she whispered. "You left me to face everything alone. Do you have any idea what that means?" Richard had exhaled sharply, a sigh that sounded almost like relief, as if he had finally said something that lifted a weight off him. "I can't deal with it, Emily. I can't be a father right now. And you're strong. You'll manage. You always do." Emily had stared at him, stunned, the sting of betrayal so sharp it felt like her ribs were splitting. "Manage? Manage? This isn't about managing, Richard. This is about love, about family, about choosing to stand by the people you claim to care about. And you chose yourself over us." He had started to speak again, but the words faltered. For a moment, she saw a flicker in his eyes, something that resembled guilt, but it vanished quickly, leaving only the carefully constructed mask of the man who refused to feel. "I can't, Emily. I'm sorry." And with that, he had turned, leaving her with the sterile smell of the hospital and the life growing inside her. That memory had haunted her every night since. Every time she felt Oliver kick, she was reminded of the man who had walked away, leaving a piece of himself behind. Yet, as painful as it was, Emily refused to let that pain define her. She was not a victim. She would not allow herself to crumble under the weight of his betrayal. Weeks turned into months, and Emily learned to navigate the world alone, balancing the mounting responsibilities with a quiet determination. The doctors, noticing her strength and resilience, often commented on it. "You're handling this remarkably well, Emily," one nurse said, smiling gently as she adjusted the monitors. Emily gave a small, tired smile. "I have no choice. He may have left, but this little one, he can't. He deserves better than what I received. I'll fight for him, for both of us." Night after night, she sat by her small, rickety desk, researching parenting, nutrition, and the small nuances of raising a child without a partner. Each piece of knowledge she absorbed, every precaution she took, became a testament to her refusal to be broken. Oliver's life depended on her strength, and she would not fail him. Her friends tried to console her, but Emily often pushed them away. She didn't need pity. She needed understanding. Lila came one evening, sensing the storm that had settled in Emily's chest. "You shouldn't carry all of this alone," Lila said softly, sitting beside her. "It's not fair." Emily looked down at her hands, tracing the faint scar where a previous worry had left its mark. "I know, Lila, but what choice do I have? He left, and I have to keep going for Oliver. For me." Lila nodded, her eyes filled with compassion. "You're incredible, Emily. He doesn't deserve you, but that doesn't mean you're weak. You're stronger than you realize." Emily's lips curved into a faint smile, but the tension in her shoulders remained. She had to be stronger, not just for Oliver, but for herself. The betrayal had wounded her deeply, but it had also awakened something fierce inside. She would not crumble. She would not allow Richard's abandonment to dictate her life. She had a new purpose now, one born from heartbreak, but tempered by love and determination. She often spoke to her unborn child softly at night, whispering promises she hoped he could one day understand. "I'll keep you safe, Oliver. I'll love you endlessly. And no one will ever make you feel unworthy or unloved. That's my promise." As she ran her hands over her growing belly, she imagined the future. The small joys of watching him take his first steps, the sleepless nights that would be filled with giggles instead of tears, the first words he would speak, and the quiet pride she would feel in raising a boy who would know strength, resilience, and love. And somewhere deep inside, a flicker of hope began to grow. Perhaps the world had not been entirely cruel. Perhaps, even without Richard, she could carve a life filled with meaning, with love that was untainted by betrayal, with moments that belonged solely to them. Yet, even in the midst of this fragile hope, a shadow lingered, an awareness that one day, their paths might cross again. Richard, the man who had left them behind, might appear, drawn back by curiosity, by guilt, or by something more complicated. And when that day came, Emily knew she would have to confront not just him, but the emotions that still stirred in her heart. She had to prepare herself, to steel her resolve, because the moment he reappeared would change everything. For now, though, she focused on the life in her arms, the tiny hands curling around her fingers, the warmth of a love that had never left her heart. She whispered once more, softly, fiercely, "We'll be okay, Oliver. You and I." She had taken up teaching music lessons in a community center, sharing the joy of piano and voice with children who reminded her of what innocence and wonder looked like. She never mentioned her past, never spoke of the life she had lost or the man who had abandoned her. Instead, she poured herself into her students, letting the music heal parts of her soul that words could never reach. One afternoon, after Oliver had fallen asleep, Emily sat at an old, slightly chipped piano in the center of the music room. She ran her fingers across the keys, letting the melody rise and fall, each note a release of tension, of grief, of hope. "You're amazing," a voice said from behind her. She turned to see Mrs. Carmichael, the center's director, leaning against the doorway. "The children adore you, Emily. I've never seen anyone teach with such life in their heart." Emily smiled, though her eyes carried a shadow of years past. "Thank you. It's not always easy," she admitted softly, her hands still resting on the keys. "Sometimes it feels like I'm holding on to fragments of a life that's gone forever." Mrs. Carmichael stepped closer, concern etching her face. "You've been through so much, but I see something in you, something unbreakable. Don't underestimate the power you carry, Emily." Emily's gaze drifted to the small window where Oliver slept in his stroller. "I have to be strong," she whispered. "Not just for me, but for him. He deserves a mother who can stand on her own, no matter what." Days passed, and slowly, the life she was building began to feel tangible, real, and beautiful in a way she hadn't thought possible. Yet, every time she caught a glimpse of the city, skyline, or heard a story of Richard's growing empire, a quiet tremor of fear ran through her chest. Would he ever come back? Did he even think of her, or of Oliver? One evening, as she returned from the center, the apartment felt emptier than usual. She set Oliver in his crib, his eyes heavy with sleep, and sank into the small sofa by the window. The rain had started, a steady drizzle that blurred the lights of the street outside. Emily hugged her knees to her chest, staring out at the city that had once been their shared dream, now a landscape of memories and what-ifs. "You're doing well," she murmured to herself. "You're surviving. You're living." A knock at the door startled her. Heart pounding, she rose cautiously. Through the peephole, she saw no one she recognized. When she opened the door, a young man in a sharp suit, holding a portfolio, greeted her with a polite bow. "Miss Emily Hayes?" he asked. "Yes. Who's asking?" Her voice was wary. "I'm Jonathan, from the Harmony Arts Foundation. We heard about your music program, and about your talent. We'd like to sponsor a recital for you with the children, and perhaps feature your own performances. The city is eager to hear your story through music." Emily blinked, disbelief washing over her. You want me to perform? Publicly?" Jonathan nodded, smiling gently. "Yes, the world deserves to see what you're capable of. Your story, your music, it could inspire many." Her mind raced. Public performance meant visibility. And visibility meant if Richard ever returned, he would notice. Her chest tightened at the thought, but beneath it, a spark of excitement flickered. She hadn't allowed herself to dream like this in years. "Why me?" she whispered, almost to herself. "Because," Jonathan said softly, "you've endured what few could survive, and yet you've created beauty from it. That's rare. That's worth sharing." Emily felt a lump form in her throat. She looked down at Oliver, sleeping peacefully, and realized that the time had come. She would step into the world on her own terms, not as the woman abandoned, but as the mother, the artist, the woman who had endured. The following weeks were a whirlwind of preparation. Emily rehearsed tirelessly, letting her emotions flow through every note. Oliver became her constant companion, sitting on the edge of the piano bench, tapping along, his giggles filling the room with light. Each day, she felt stronger, more capable, more alive. And yet, as the recital approached, a shadow of apprehension lingered. She knew that performing publicly meant exposure, not just of her music, but of her story. What if Richard were there? What if the man who had once left them in silence stood among the audience, eyes tracing every movement, every note, realizing the life he had forsaken? One evening, she spoke aloud to Oliver, cradling him in her arms as the rain tapped against the windows. "Whatever happens, little one, this is our moment. This is ours. We'll show the world that we don't need anyone else to define us. Not him, Not anyone. Her voice was steady, but her heart raced with a mixture of excitement and fear. The stage was waiting, the audience would be waiting, and somewhere in the vast city, Richard's shadow might still linger. She didn't know what would happen when their worlds collided again, but for the first time in years, Emily felt ready. She glanced at the piano, at the sheet music carefully arranged, and whispered once more, fiercely and tenderly, "We're ready, Oliver. It's time to shine. Time for them to see who we really are." And as the rain continued to fall outside, washing the city in silver light, Emily felt a surge of power she had never known. She had survived, she had loved, she had lost. And now, she would rise, stronger than ever, prepared for whatever fate awaited her. One evening, as he returned to his penthouse after a meeting that had stretched late into the night, the tension in the air was palpable. Vanessa lounged on the couch, flipping through fashion magazines, her lips curling in a smirk as he entered. "You're late," she said, eyes sharp. "Again. Is your empire crumbling without you?" Richard's jaw tightened. "Don't start, Vanessa. The meetings went well. Everything is under control." She laughed, a sound that no longer thrilled him. "Under control? You've been distracted. I see it. Your mind isn't where it should be. Are you thinking about her again?" Richard froze. The word itself was a blade, cutting through the careful walls he had built. "Emily?" he asked cautiously, voice low, almost hesitant. Vanessa leaned forward, her gaze hard. "Yes, that Emily. You can't hide it. Every time she appears in the news, every time someone mentions her, your expression changes. Admit it, you regret leaving her." He turned away, running a hand through his hair, feeling the first tremors of guilt he had long denied. I didn't think about it. Not really." Her laugh was cruel, echoing off the high ceilings. "Don't lie to me, Richard. You've built your life around control, around precision, but you're losing it. And she's thriving without you. That's what bothers you. You can't stand that someone you abandoned, someone you thought weak, has become stronger than you ever imagined." Richard felt heat rise in his chest. He wanted to argue, to assert dominance, but the words caught in his throat. Every thought of Emily brought a pang he could neither deny nor ignore. He remembered her strength, her quiet resilience, the way she had carried their child without him, refusing to crumble, refusing to be broken. And somewhere in the tight confines of his chest, a truth he had long avoided began to take root. He had made a mistake, a grave, irreparable mistake. Vanessa's voice pierced through his thoughts. "Do you realize what I've done for you? I supported you, looked perfect by your side. And yet, you still think about her. What does that tell you about us? About me?" He looked at her then, really looked, and the truth hit him harder than any loss he had ever endured. She had been a distraction, a temporary thrill. Emily was the constant, the one who had shaped his very existence before he had been blinded by ambition. His heart thudded in a rhythm of panic and regret. "You're right," he admitted, voice hoarse. I've been foolish. I thought I could replace her, that I could escape what I left behind. But I can't. I don't want anyone else. Only her." Vanessa's eyes narrowed, her posture stiffening. "Only her? After everything? Do you know what that means, Richard? That means you're weak. That means you let go of the person who mattered most, and now you realize she was irreplaceable. And there's nothing you can do about it." Richard's fists clenched. "I don't care if it's too late. I need to fix this. I need to make her see that I was wrong." Vanessa laughed bitterly. "Good luck. She doesn't need you anymore. She's thriving. She's alive. And she has something you can never take away from her. Your mistakes are her lessons, Richard. And the world sees her as the woman who survived you, not the one who fell because of you." He turned away, pacing, the walls of the penthouse suddenly feeling confining, suffocating. Every corner, every polished surface, every reminder of his wealth now seemed hollow, meaningless. His empire, his power, his prestige. What did any of it matter if he had lost the woman who had given him life's truest connection? Richard stopped near the window, staring out at the sprawling city lights, the streets teeming with life, unaware of the storm brewing in his heart. He thought of Emily, teaching music to children, holding their son, creating a life full of love and purpose without him. He felt a pang sharper than any business failure, sharper than any public humiliation. Vanessa's voice cut through again, cold and precise. You can't change the past, Richard. You can't undo what you did. And the more you chase it, the more you'll realize some things are out of your control. He exhaled sharply, a bitter laugh escaping him. Out of control, yes, that's exactly what I feel. I've built walls around myself, surrounded by power and money, and yet, I've never felt so exposed, so powerless. Vanessa's eyes flickered with something between triumph and fear, realizing that the man she had thought she possessed was slipping from her grasp. Not because of her, but because of the life he had once abandoned. Richard turned back to her, his expression resolute despite the storm inside. I don't know how or when, but I will see her again. I will speak to her. I have to make this right, for me and for Oliver. I don't care about appearances, about what others think. This isn't about power anymore. It's about the life I left behind, the family I abandoned, and the mistakes I cannot ignore. Vanessa's smirk faltered, replaced with a flicker of fear. And what if she refuses you? What if she doesn't want to see the man who walked away? Richard's gaze hardened. Then I'll accept it, but I have to try. I can't live the rest of my life wondering what could have been. I've spent too long trying to conquer the world and forgot the one thing that mattered most. The night deepened outside, the city's lights twinkling like distant stars. Inside the penthouse, Richard stood alone, stripped of illusions, facing a truth he could no longer deny. His life of control, of wealth, of carefully curated appearances. None of it could fill the void left by Emily's absence. And somewhere in the shadows, a realization settled in his chest, heavy and unyielding. The woman he had left behind had not only survived, she had thrived. And soon, the paths they had chosen, one of abandonment, one of resilience, would collide in ways neither of them could yet imagine. Oliver sat quietly on a small chair nearby, his tiny fingers clutching a stuffed toy as he watched his mother with wide, trusting eyes. Emily knelt down to him, brushing a stray curl from his forehead. "Are you ready for this, little one?" she whispered, her voice soft but steady. "Tonight, we show them who we are. Not the woman left behind, but the woman who survived. Do you understand?" Oliver giggled, reaching up to touch her cheek, and Emily's heart swelled. She stood, drawing in a deep breath, the sound of children warming up on their instruments filling the corridor, a melody of hope and energy. From somewhere in the crowd, a voice called out, "Is Emily ready?" It was Jonathan, the foundation director, his tone filled with both excitement and reverence. Emily nodded, swallowing the lump in her throat. "We're ready," she said. "Let's do this." The lights dimmed, and a hush settled over the room. The audience's faces were shadowed, but Emily could feel their expectation like a current running through the air. She stepped onto the stage, Oliver in her arms, and for a brief moment, time seemed to slow. Her fingers lightly grazed the piano keys, setting off a single note that vibrated through the hall. The sound was soft, intimate, yet it demanded attention. Richard, across the city in his office, had not planned to attend the recital. And yet, something deep inside him, a mixture of fear, regret, and longing, compelled him to drive through the rain-slicked streets, past glowing advertisements and endless skyscrapers, toward the hall where Emily would perform. He told himself it was curiosity, the last vestiges of a man obsessed with control, wanting to see how far she had fallen or risen. But in truth, he did not know if he could bear what he might witness. Backstage, Emily adjusted Oliver on her hip and glanced at the children preparing to perform. Her pulse raced, each heartbeat echoing with memories she had tried to bury. The nights she had cried silently, the moments she had feared she would not survive, the feeling of carrying a life alone while the father of that life had chosen absence. "Emily," Jonathan said softly, You don't have to do this alone. The music, the children, they're with you. And so am I, if you need me. She gave him a small, grateful smile. I know. Thank you. But tonight, it's just us. This is our moment. The first notes rang out across the stage, a gentle, soaring melody that captured every emotion she had buried over the years. Love, pain, hope, resilience. The audience leaned forward, drawn in by the purity and intensity of her performance. Emily's fingers danced across the keys, guided by memories of Oliver's kicks in her womb, of the nights she had whispered promises into the darkness, of the strength she had found in solitude. Then, from the back of the hall, a movement caught her eye. At first, she thought it was a shadow in the dim light, but her heart skipped when she saw a tall figure standing at the entrance. Richard. He did not speak, did not move closer. He simply stood, a silhouette against the dim light of the lobby, eyes fixed on her, absorbing every gesture, every note. Vanessa was not with him. He had come alone, and the sight of him there, so powerful, so distant, yet undeniably human, sent a tremor through Emily's chest. She forced herself to continue playing, letting the music flow, each note a shield and a message, a declaration of her survival, of the life she had built without him. Oliver stirred in her arms, reaching for her face, and she smiled down at him, drawing courage from his innocence and trust. The performance continued, the children joining in, their voices blending with the melody, creating a tapestry of sound and emotion that filled the hall. Emily's heart raced not with fear, but with purpose. She was no longer the abandoned woman, the one left behind. She was whole, alive, radiant in the very life that Richard had walked away from. Richard felt a pull in his chest that he could not explain, a mixture of awe, regret, and longing. Every note, every gesture, every tiny movement on the stage reminded him of what he had lost. He saw the way she held their son, the strength in her posture, the elegance and grace that had once captivated him and now seemed even more profound. He felt a sudden, sharp ache, a realization that the woman who had survived his absence was more extraordinary than he had ever understood. Vanessa's voice came to him in a memory, but it no longer mattered. He understood in that moment that all the wealth, all the power, all the deals he had conquered meant nothing compared to the life he had abandoned. And as Emily's eyes lifted toward the audience, meeting the faint glimmer of recognition in some faces, Richard knew that the woman he had left behind would never again belong solely to him. She was untouchable, resilient, and magnificent, forged in fire and unyielding love. The final note lingered, echoing across the silent hall. Emily set Oliver down, standing tall, a quiet triumph radiating from her very being. Applause erupted, a wave of admiration and respect sweeping the room. She had transformed pain into art, abandonment into strength, betrayal into beauty. And Richard, standing at the back, felt both the sting of loss and the undeniable pull of a future he could not yet claim. Emily's eyes scanned the crowd, unaware of the man in the shadows, and whispered to Oliver, "We did it, little one. We're unstoppable. Nothing can touch what we've built together." Richard's breath caught, his heart pounding with a mix of fear and hope, knowing that the moment had come when their worlds, once shattered and divided, would collide, and that every choice, every decision, every betrayal would finally demand its reckoning. He stopped at a small cafe, seeking solitude, and ordered a coffee without truly tasting it. The warmth of the cup offered no comfort. His thoughts kept circling back to her, the way she had held Oliver during the performance, the glow of her presence, the way the music had seemed to flow from her very soul. Every image was a reminder of what he had walked away from, of the fatherhood he had neglected, of the love he had abandoned. "She's extraordinary," he whispered to himself, his voice barely audible over the low murmur of the cafe. How did I not see it before?" A barista, noticing his intensity, asked gently, "Are you all right, sir?" Richard shook his head, a bitter laugh escaping him. "Yes, no, I never mind." He turned away, unwilling to share the chaos inside him. Backstage at the music center, Emily was gathering the children and their instruments, helping them store the music sheets and making sure Oliver was settled for the night. Her hands moved with practiced precision, yet a quiet tension lingered in her shoulders. She had felt the eyes of the audience, the weight of every gaze, the unspoken acknowledgement of her strength. And somewhere deep inside, she had sensed that someone important, someone from her past, might have been among them. Jonathan approached her quietly. "You were incredible, Emily. Absolutely incredible." She smiled faintly, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "Thank you. It feels like a step forward, like I can finally breathe again." Jonathan hesitated, then spoke with caution. "There's someone here who wanted to meet you privately, but I wasn't sure if you were ready." Emily stiffened slightly, the air tightening around her. "Who?" she asked, voice controlled but edged with curiosity and caution. Jonathan's expression was hesitant. "It's Richard." Her chest stopped. A pulse of adrenaline shot through her, sharp and urgent. "Richard?" she echoed, almost disbelieving. "After everything, he wants to see me?" Jonathan nodded slowly. "He says he needs to speak with you. He asked me to arrange a moment where it's just the three of you, he and you and your son." Emily felt a rush of conflicting emotions. Anger, betrayal, fear, and an undeniable curiosity. Her hands trembled as she adjusted Oliver in her arms. "Why now?" she whispered, mostly to herself. "Why after all these months?" Jonathan offered a sympathetic glance. "He claims he's realized what he lost, that he can't live without seeing you, without facing his mistakes." Emily exhaled sharply, feeling the tension coil in her chest like a tightly wound spring. "He left us," she said quietly, voice heavy with memory. "He left me alone to raise our son, to survive the life he abandoned. How can he just appear now and expect forgiveness?" Jonathan's eyes softened. "I can't answer that, but he's asking, not demanding. The choice is yours." Emily turned away, staring out the small window at the rain-slicked street. She could see the reflections of streetlights dancing in the puddles, distorted and flickering. She imagined Richard walking those streets, unsure, conflicted, carrying the weight of his own guilt. Her chest tightened at the thought, and yet, despite the lingering anger, there was a flicker of something she had long suppressed: curiosity, a need for closure, a desire to confront the man who had shaped so much of her past. Later, as she arrived at the small meeting room arranged by Jonathan, Richard was already there. He stood, hands nervously adjusting his coat, eyes fixed on the floor, the man in him stripped of the usual confidence, the commanding presence replaced by raw vulnerability. "Emily," he began, voice low, tense, almost breaking. "Thank you for agreeing to see me. I don't know where to start." Emily held Oliver close, her gaze steady, unwavering. "You can start by being honest, Richard. No excuses, no pretenses. You left us, me and our son, alone. That's where you start." Richard's eyes lifted, meeting hers, and the flood of emotion was almost too much to bear. "I know. I was selfish. I thought I was chasing success, ambition. But I failed at the one thing that truly mattered. I left you when I should have stayed. I left Oliver when I should have been there every day. And I regret it more than anything in my life." Emily's lips pressed into a thin line, the memory of sleepless nights, the lonely hospital room, the quiet despair. Every moment he had abandoned her, surfacing with sharp clarity. "Regret," she said, voice edged with ice and pain. "You think regret undoes the nights I cried alone? The months I wondered if I could survive without you? Do you realize what that means?" "I do," he said, voice breaking now, raw and desperate. "I've lived with it every day. Not a moment has passed that I haven't thought of you, of Oliver, of what I lost. And I need you to know the truth. I need to face it. I don't know if I deserve forgiveness, but I need to tell you that I was wrong. Emily's eyes softened slightly, her voice trembling as she interrupted. "Do you think saying you're sorry changes anything? Do you think it erases the months, the nights, the fear I felt raising our son without you?" Richard's hands clenched, the desperation in his posture impossible to hide. "No, I know it doesn't. I can't take back the past. I can only try to make amends. I want to be part of Oliver's life, even if you can never forgive me. I need to show you that I can be better, that I can be there for both of you, if you'll let me." Emily's gaze shifted to Oliver, sleeping peacefully against her chest. The boy represented both the heartbreak of the past and the hope of the future. She felt her chest tighten, the emotions swirling: love, anger, fear, and an undeniable pull toward the man who had once been everything to her. "You can't undo what you did, Richard," she said softly, her voice carrying the weight of months of pain and resilience. "But if you're truly willing to try, truly willing to put aside ego and ambition, maybe we can start to see if you can be what you were supposed to be all along." Richard nodded, a tear escaping down his cheek. "I'll do anything, Emily. I'll prove it. I swear, I'll prove it to you and to him." A silence fell, heavy but not bitter, charged with tension, with possibility, with the unspoken truth that the next steps would determine the lives of all three of them. Emily held Oliver tighter, feeling the fragile balance of hope and fear, of past wounds and potential healing. And in that charged quiet, both of them knew the moment of reckoning had truly begun. On his first visit under this new arrangement, Richard arrived early, his expression tense, his polished shoes silent on the wooden floor of Emily's apartment. The rain had stopped, leaving the streets slick and reflective, mirroring the conflicted storm inside him. Emily met him at the door, Oliver cradled in her arms, hair still damp from a small bath, eyes blinking sleepily. "You're early," she said, voice steady but edged with a faint tremor of anticipation. Richard nodded, swallowing nervously. I wanted to be on time. I know I have no right to demand anything, but I want to be here properly, for him, for you." Oliver stirred, reaching out a tiny hand toward Richard, and Richard froze for a moment, unsure, the weight of years of absence pressing down on him. "Hey, little one," he said softly, lowering his voice to match the tenderness he had long denied himself. "It's me. I'm here." Emily watched him closely, noting the way his eyes softened, the hesitation in his gestures. "Oliver, do you remember me telling you that someone important from your past might visit? Well, here he is. He wants to try to be part of our lives." Oliver blinked at Richard, and though he did not speak, the small hand in the air seemed to test him, to gauge if the stranger, this man who should have been part of his world, was trustworthy. Richard felt a lump rise in his throat, understanding that every gesture, every word, every breath would now carry weight beyond mere intention. "I know I've missed so much," Richard said quietly, stepping closer, careful to lower himself to the boy's level. "I can't take back the time I've lost, the nights you've cried without me, the first steps, the first words. I missed it all, and I'm so sorry, Oliver. I can only promise that from now on, I will try, every day, to be the father you deserve." Emily held her breath, watching the scene unfold. Part of her wanted to reject him outright, to protect both herself and Oliver from further disappointment. But the sincerity in his eyes, the tremor in his voice, told her that he was beginning to feel the consequences of his actions. "Actions, Richard," she said, her voice firm but not harsh. "Words are meaningless without them. You can say anything, but it's what you do that matters. Understand?" Richard nodded, swallowing hard. "I understand. I know I have to earn your trust, Emily. I know it won't be easy, and I don't expect it to be. But I will do everything in my power to prove I can be better. For him. For you." Oliver finally reached out, small fingers brushing Richard's cheek. Richard froze, a tear slipping down unbidden. The reality of this tiny life, so dependent, so pure, overwhelming him. "I won't hurt you again," he whispered. "I swear." Emily's chest tightened at the sight, memories of months alone flooding back. The nights she had held Oliver, the whispers in the dark, the fear of facing the world without his father. And yet, there was something in Richard now, a humility, a vulnerability, that she had not seen before. "We'll see," she said softly, more to herself than to him. "Actions, Richard. Don't forget that." Over the following weeks, Richard's efforts were painstaking, deliberate. He attended Oliver's small milestones, helped with bedtime routines, and even played quietly on the floor with toys while Emily cooked or cleaned. Every action was measured, every word considered, every touch careful. Yet the underlying tension remained. An unspoken question hung in the air. Could trust ever truly be rebuilt? One evening, as Emily tucked Oliver into bed, Richard lingered at the doorway, watching her with a mixture of longing and guilt. "He's growing so fast," he said quietly, almost to himself. "I missed so much. I can't believe I let it happen." Emily's eyes met his briefly, a flicker of emotion in her gaze. "You did," she said softly. "And now, it's up to you to prove you can be different, to be consistent, to be real. It's not about moments of showmanship or promises. It's about being here, every day, no matter what." Richard nodded solemnly, the weight of her words settling into the core of him. "I will, every day, I swear." Days turned into weeks, and slowly, tentatively, Emily began to notice subtle changes. Richard remembered birthdays and small milestones, helped with homework, and even encouraged Oliver's first tentative steps on a piano keyboard, joining her in lessons at the community center. Emily watched, her heart wary but warming, seeing the man she had once loved, or at least thought she had loved, begin to rebuild himself around the life he had abandoned. One rainy afternoon, Emily and Richard walked Oliver home from the park, the boy laughing as he splashed in puddles, Richard carefully holding his small hand. "He's so full of life," Richard said softly, almost awestruck. I never realized how much I missed just being part of the little moments. I was so blind, so focused on everything else that I forgot. This is what matters." Emily glanced at him, her expression unreadable. "Don't mistake this for forgiveness," she said, voice firm but not unkind. "You have a long way to go, but seeing you here, truly present, is the first step. Actions, Richard. That's all that matters now." Richard nodded, a mixture of relief and resolve in his gaze. "I understand, Emily, and I'll spend every day proving it. I won't waste another moment of this chance to be part of your lives." As they reached the apartment, Oliver tugged at Emily's hand, giggling, and Richard followed, walking close but not imposing, learning the delicate balance of trust and patience. In the quiet of the evening, the rain tapping softly against the windows, Emily felt a cautious hope bloom. Perhaps the man who had left them could learn to be the man they needed. Perhaps the future, uncertain, fragile, and yet filled with possibility, could bring reconciliation, not just between a father and son, but between two hearts that had once been broken. And as Richard watched Emily and Oliver step into their home, he felt a determination deeper than ambition, more profound than pride, to reclaim what he had lost, to earn the trust he had forfeited, and to face the consequences of his absence with courage and humility. This section shows Richard actively trying to rebuild trust and reconnect with Emily and Oliver, maintaining suspense, emotional depth, and realistic tension in their evolving relationship, highlighting the delicate balance between hope and the scars of the past. One crisp evening, Emily was preparing dinner when the phone rang. Oliver was playing quietly with blocks on the floor, humming a tune from one of his lessons. Emily answered, tension creeping into her voice. "Hello." A familiar, cold voice met her on the other end. "Emily Hayes." She stiffened, her grip tightening on the phone. "Yes. Who's this?" "It's Vanessa." Her heart skipped. Vanessa, the woman who had replaced her in Richard's life, who had flaunted her presence while Emily had suffered in silence, was calling now. Emily's instincts screamed caution. "What do you want?" she asked, voice steady but laced with underlying tension. Vanessa's laugh was sharp, almost cutting through the line. "Isn't it obvious? I want to remind you, you've been replaced. Richard has moved on, and you're clinging to a fantasy that will never happen. Don't delude yourself into thinking you can take what belongs to me. Emily's hand tightened on the phone, knuckles white. What belongs to you? She spat, her voice trembling with suppressed fury. Richard is not yours. You never had him. He walked away from everything, and I've been the one who raised our son, who endured the pain you never imagined. Vanessa's tone sharpened. Be careful, Emily. People forget who they belong to, and Richard belongs with me now. You should step aside before you embarrass yourself further. Emily closed her eyes, drawing in a deep breath, fighting the swirl of anger and fear. I'm not afraid of you, and I'm not going to step aside. Richard made his choice once, yes, but he is learning every day what he lost. He's choosing to be with his family now, not because of you, but because he finally sees what matters. And you have no claim here. There was a pause on the line, a hiss of static, and then Vanessa's voice, lower, sharper, almost menacing. We'll see, Emily, but don't think for a second this is over. Emily hung up, heart racing, a storm of emotions swirling within her. She turned to see Richard standing in the doorway, watching her, concern etched across his face. Emily, what happened? He asked, voice quiet, apprehensive. Emily handed him the phone, her eyes blazing. Vanessa called. Threats, reminders, trying to intimidate me, to intimidate us. But I won't let her. This ends tonight. I won't let her disrupt the life we're building. Richard ran a hand through his hair, tension rippling through his frame. She's dangerous, he muttered. I should have dealt with her long ago. I didn't realize how far she would go, or how ruthless she could be. Emily met his gaze, a spark of defiance in her eyes. We can handle her, together. But Richard, you need to understand this is not just about her. It's about trust, about proving to me and to Oliver that you are truly committed. If you waver, if you let her influence you, then nothing we're building will survive. Richard nodded, a tight determination setting his jaw. I understand. I swear to you, Emily, I will not let her interfere. Not in our lives, not in Oliver's life, not in yours. I'll protect you both, whatever it takes. Over the following days, Richard's resolve was tested like never before. Vanessa's interference was subtle yet persistent. Invitations to public events designed to show off Richard's wealth, whispers from business associates, and veiled comments during social encounters meant to destabilize Emily. But Richard handled each situation with a newfound clarity, refusing to engage in deception, refusing to bow to Vanessa's manipulations. One evening, Emily and Richard were reviewing Oliver's homework when there was a knock at the door. Richard moved to open it, and there stood Vanessa, her expression smug, her eyes calculating. I see Richard has been busy, she said, her voice silky but edged with malice. And Emily, how quaint, raising a child alone while pretending life hasn't moved on without you. Emily stepped forward, protective, a silent warning in her stance. You've come to the wrong place, she said firmly. This home, this family, what you're trying to manipulate, belongs to us, not to you. You need to leave. Vanessa's smirk faltered slightly, then sharpened. You think you've won? That you've built some fortress that I can't breach? Richard may be here now, but one day you'll see. People like you always lose. Richard stepped beside Emily, placing a hand on her shoulder. You're done here, Vanessa. This ends now. No threats, no manipulation. I've made my choice, my family comes first. You're no longer part of this. Vanessa's eyes narrowed, fury and disbelief mingling. We'll see about that, she hissed, retreating down the hallway, the echo of her heels marking a tense departure. Richard exhaled deeply, turning to Emily. I know this isn't easy, he said softly, voice layered with emotion. But I will fight for you, for Oliver, for this life we're trying to build. I will not let her win. Emily's shoulders relaxed slightly, her own fear tempered by the unwavering resolve she saw in him. I know, she said, voice soft but firm. But actions speak louder than words. Keep proving it, Richard, every single day. Because our family, our son, he deserves more than promises. He deserves the truth. And the truth is what will protect him. Richard nodded, the weight of responsibility pressing heavily on him, but also filling him with purpose he had never known. "I'll give you that truth," he said quietly, almost reverently. "Every day, every moment. I'll show you that I am here, for good this time. I won't fail again." And in that charged silence, with Oliver playing quietly on the floor between them, a fragile hope took root. A promise that through resilience, courage, and unwavering commitment, the storm Vanessa had tried to unleash could be weathered, and the bonds of family, though tested, could emerge stronger than ever before. One afternoon, while Richard was helping Oliver with a small science project on the living room floor, Emily's phone buzzed. Her brow furrowed as she glanced at the screen. A meeting invite, no sender name, only a location downtown and a time. An hour from now. Richard noticed her expression. "What is it?" he asked gently, crouching beside her. Oliver's tiny hands were busy assembling a miniature solar system model. Emily held the phone, lips pressed together. "It's a meeting, and I have a bad feeling about it. I don't like anonymous invites." Richard placed a hand over hers. "We'll go together. Whoever it is, I promise we won't be intimidated. We're a team now." Her gaze softened briefly at the sincerity in his eyes, but tension still lingered. "You don't know what you're walking into. This could be Vanessa. She's relentless. And she's clever. She'll try to manipulate, to twist, to undermine everything we've built." Richard nodded solemnly. "Then we face it together. Whatever comes, I'll stand by you. I won't let her or anyone else harm our family." The drive downtown was quiet, the city's rhythm muted under the overcast sky. Emily's hands gripped the seat, knuckles white, while Richard's eyes remained fixed on the road, jaw tense, thoughts racing. Through scenarios he could barely control. When they arrived at the designated location, a sleek, upscale restaurant, Emily's stomach churned. Richard parked the car, taking a deep breath before stepping out. The two of them walked inside, immediately spotting a familiar figure sitting alone at a corner table. Vanessa. Her expression was calculated, serene, as if she had anticipated this moment perfectly. "Emily," she said smoothly, a predatory glint in her eyes. "Richard, how cooperative of you to join me." Emily's hand tightened on Richard's arm. "We're not here to entertain you, Vanessa. Speak your purpose and leave." Vanessa's smile widened, but it did not reach her eyes. Always so cold, so controlled. But control is an illusion, isn't it? Richard, Emily, life is about influence, about power. And I've come to remind you both who truly understands it. Richard felt his chest tighten, but he remained calm, placing himself slightly in front of Emily. "We're not interested in your lessons, Vanessa. Whatever you're planning, it ends here. Now." Vanessa's eyes flicked to Emily, then to Richard, appraising, calculating. Still the protector," she said softly. "But Richard, you've changed, haven't you? So eager to play the hero, so desperate to prove yourself. Tell me, how long before the cracks start to show? How long before Emily realizes that you're still flawed, that the father she trusted once is just a man with regrets?" Emily's chest tightened, anger bubbling just beneath the surface. "You've had your time to manipulate and control," she said, voice low and cold. "But this ends tonight. You're done interfering with our lives." Vanessa's smile faltered momentarily, replaced with a hard edge. "Do you think it's that simple? That I'll just vanish? Richard, you were mine once. You let Emily take you away. But the truth is, some habits die hard, and some attachments are inescapable." Richard stepped closer to Emily, voice firm, unwavering. "You're wrong, Vanessa. I'm not yours. Not anymore. I've made mistakes, yes, but my priorities are clear now. My family is clear. I won't let you threaten or manipulate us. Not now, not ever." Vanessa's eyes flashed with anger, the carefully composed facade cracking. "You think words can erase history? You think a few gestures can undo everything I built around you?" Emily placed a hand on Richard's arm, feeling the same determination she had seen in him since he began earning her trust. History is history, she said, voice steady. What matters is what we do today, right now. You have no power over us. You never did. This ends with you walking out that door. Vanessa leaned back slightly, assessing them, and for a brief moment, a flicker of uncertainty passed across her face. Then she stood, her heels clicking sharply on the polished floor. This isn't over, she said, voice low and threatening. You may have won the day, Emily, Richard, but life is full of surprises, and I will find mine. She turned and walked away, leaving a tense silence behind. Richard exhaled, the first real relief since they arrived washing over him. Emily's shoulders dropped slightly, though her eyes remained watchful, still aware that Vanessa's influence could linger in the background like a shadow. Richard took her hand gently. She's gone for now, but I promise, Emily, I'll keep her away. I'll protect you and Oliver, always. No one will come between us again. Emily met his gaze, the tension in her body slowly unwinding. I want to believe that, Richard. I truly do. But actions, not words. Keep proving it. Every day. For us. For Oliver. Richard nodded, a quiet resolve settling over him. Every day, he repeated. I'll spend every day showing him, that I am here to stay. No mistakes, no regrets. Only the family we should have always been. Oliver, who had been quietly observing the adults, reached up for Richard's hand. Richard knelt, holding his son gently. We'll face anything together, little man, he whispered. Nothing will break us now. And as the three of them left the restaurant together, the city lights reflecting in the puddles, a fragile, powerful sense of unity took root. Vanessa might still lurk in the background, a threat waiting for opportunity, but for the first time, Richard, Emily, and Oliver moved forward not as fractured pieces, but as a family determined to survive, to heal, and to reclaim what had been almost lost forever. Richard's hand finally lifted the pen, but he didn't write. His mind was heavy with thoughts of protection, of proving himself, and of the delicate balance of love and responsibility he had vowed to uphold. Emily, he said quietly, breaking the silence, I know Vanessa will keep testing us, and I know you have doubts, rightly so, but I need to show you, every day, that I am committed to this family, that nothing will pull me away from you and Oliver again. Emily looked at him, tension coiling in her chest, but also a flicker of hope. Words, Richard, she said softly, mean nothing without action. I want to believe you, but it's not enough to say it. You have to prove it. I will, he said, voice firm, but with an undercurrent of vulnerability. No one, no threat, no past mistake will stop me. I will protect this family. I will not fail again. Oliver, unaware of the tension between the adults, ran over, holding a small toy car. Daddy, can we play? His eyes sparkled with innocence, free from the complications of adult lives, and Richard felt a pang of guilt and love that almost brought him to his knees. Yes, little man, Richard said, scooping him up. We'll play. I promise. I'll always be here for you. The first test came unexpectedly that very afternoon. Richard received an urgent call from his assistant. A sudden, high-stakes business deal required immediate travel, coordinated precisely with the weekend he had promised Emily he would spend entirely with Oliver. Normally, Richard would have left without a second thought, prioritizing work over family. But now he felt the weight of choice pressing down on him. Emily noticed the tension as he paced the living room. What's wrong? She asked, concern lacing her voice. Richard stopped, shoulders heavy, eyes meeting hers. They need me at the office now. The timing is impossible, but it's a major opportunity. He ran a hand through his hair, frustration and determination battling within him. I could leave as I would have before, but I promised Oliver, I won't fail him again. I can't abandon this family now. Emily's eyes softened, but she remained cautious. You mean it? She asked quietly. This isn't just words, Richard. You're choosing us over work, over everything else. Yes, he said firmly, voice breaking slightly under the weight of the moment. I choose you, Emily. I choose Oliver. I choose this family. Whatever the cost to me professionally, whatever the challenge, I won't let my ambition destroy what I've finally found again. The decision was not easy, and Richard knew it would have consequences in his professional life. But as he turned to Oliver, who had climbed onto the sofa, eyes wide and trusting, his resolve hardened. Let's spend the day together, he said, smiling despite the tight knot of worry in his chest. No distractions, no threats, just us. Emily watched them, a cautious smile forming. You better mean it, she said softly. One misstep, and it could all fall apart. Richard knelt beside Oliver, lifting him gently into his lap. I mean it, he said, voice steady, eyes locked on hers. Nothing will pull me away from you. Not Vanessa, not work, not the mistakes of the past. I'm here, fully, completely. I'll prove it every single day. They spent the day at the park, laughing, playing, and simply being present for one another. Richard threw Oliver into the air, catching him each time, the boys' laughter ringing like music through the trees. Emily watched from a bench nearby, her chest heavy with emotion, seeing the man she had once loved transform before her eyes. Not through words or promises, but through deliberate, unyielding presence. Later, as the sun dipped below the horizon, they walked home together, hand in hand, Oliver skipping between them. Richard felt a profound sense of clarity. The path forward was difficult, filled with tests and potential threats, but the bond they were nurturing was worth every challenge. That night, as Richard tucked Oliver into bed, the boy's small voice spoke up. Daddy, you'll always be here, right? Richard held his son close, swallowing the lump in his throat. Always, he whispered, voice choked with emotion. I'll never leave you, promise. You and Mommy, you're my everything now. Emily stood in the doorway, watching quietly, her heart heavy with feelings she could not yet name. Relief, hope, and a cautious belief that perhaps, just perhaps, Richard had finally embraced the true meaning of family. As they sat together in the living room afterward, Emily leaned her head on Richard's shoulder, a fragile but growing sense of security washing over her. You've chosen well, she murmured. But remember, it's every day that counts. Every single day. Richard kissed her forehead gently, holding her close. I know, and I will spend every day proving it. No one will come between us. No one will threaten this family again. I swear it. Outside, the city lights flickered against the darkened streets. Rain beginning again in soft, quiet taps on the window. But inside, the three of them sat together, a unit forged in love, pain, and resilience. And for the first time in years, Richard felt the depth of responsibility and privilege that came with being part of this family, and he vowed silently, with every fiber of his being, that he would never again let it slip away. Emily, too, felt the subtle shift, though her caution remained. She watched Richard interact with Oliver, noting how every gesture was careful, thoughtful, attentive. A father present not just in body, but in mind and heart. Yet beneath the warmth, there lingered a subtle tension. Vanessa's interference had not disappeared, and the memory of her threats lingered like a shadow at the edge of their happiness. It was in the late afternoon, as sunlight began to slant through the windows, that the unexpected event struck. The phone rang sharply, breaking the calm. Emily answered first, her brow furrowed as she glanced at the display. An unknown number. She hesitated, but the tone in the call was urgent, insistent. Emily Hayes? The voice was hurried, anxious. Yes. Who is this? Her voice was cautious, alert. This is from the hospital, the voice said quickly. There's been an accident. We need you to come immediately. It involves Richard. Emily froze, her hand clutching the phone tightly. Panic surged through her veins as she turned to Richard, who had just stepped into the room. Richard, they said, something happened. At the hospital. You need to go with me. Richard's face paled, the world narrowing in an instant. Hospital? What happened? I don't know, Emily admitted, voice quivering. They didn't give details. We have to leave now. The drive was a blur, tension knotting every muscle. Richard's hands gripped the steering wheel, mind racing through possibilities, none of them comforting. Emily sat beside him, Oliver between them in the back seat, clutching his small toy car, unaware of the gravity of the moment. His laughter quieted into concerned murmurs. When they arrived at the hospital, they were met by a nurse who led them quickly down a series of corridors to the intensive care unit. Richard's heart pounded, every step echoing in his chest. What happened? Tell me, he demanded, voice tight with fear. The nurse hesitated, then spoke. There was a car accident. You were involved, Mr. Hayes. You were admitted after being hit while crossing the street. You're awake now, but you need observation. Your family is here. Emily's hands trembled as she reached for him. Richard. Oh my God. Are you hurt? Richard looked down at himself, noting the small cuts and bruises, the pain radiating through his leg, but nothing life-threatening. Relief and fear collided inside him. I'm okay, he said, voice strained. It's nothing serious, but thank you for coming. Emily held him tightly, her own tears slipping unchecked. Don't ever scare me like that again, she whispered fiercely. You have no idea what I felt thinking I could lose you. After everything, after how far we've come. Richard cupped her face in his hands, looking into her eyes with raw intensity. I'm here, Emily. I'm still here. Nothing, no accident, no past mistake can change that. I'm not going anywhere. I swear it. Oliver, still clutching his toy car, peered around the edge of the bed. Daddy, you scared me, he said softly, voice quivering. I don't want you to go away ever again. Richard's chest tightened. He pulled the boy into his lap, holding him close. I'll never go away, Oliver. Not for anyone, not for anything. You and Mommy, you're my world. Always. Emily's gaze softened, but the weight of the moment pressed down on her. This was a reminder, Richard. A reminder that life is fragile, that we can't take each other for granted. If we're going to be a family, we have to face every day with that truth in mind. Richard nodded solemnly, swallowing the lump in his throat. I understand, and I will. I promise you, Emily, Oliver, nothing will ever separate us again. Not fear, not past mistakes, not anyone trying to come between us. We are a family, and I will fight to protect it. They spent the rest of the day quietly in the hospital room, the three of them sitting together, holding hands, cherishing the simple presence of each other. Emily rested her head against Richard's shoulder, and Oliver leaned against him, sleepy but safe. The brush with danger had intensified their bond, making the promise of family more urgent, more vital, and more real. Later, as they left the hospital and walked into the dim evening, rain beginning softly against the streets, Richard turned to Emily, his voice low but unwavering. Emily, after today, I need you to know, I will never take a single moment with you and Oliver for granted. We survived this together, and from now on, nothing will shake us again. Emily's eyes glistened, a mixture of tears and relief. I hope so, Richard, because we can only move forward if you truly mean it. If every day you show me that you've changed, that you are here for us, completely. Richard nodded, taking her hand and squeezing it gently. I will, every day. I swear it. Nothing and no one will break this family. We've been through too much to let fear or threats undo what we've rebuilt. Oliver reached up to hold both their hands, smiling sleepily. Family, he murmured, as if confirming their bond with a single word. And in that quiet evening, with the rain tapping softly against the windows and the city lights reflecting in puddles around them, Richard, Emily, and Oliver felt an unspoken understanding. The fragility of life only made their connection stronger. The accident had tested their resolve, their trust, and their love, but through it, they had emerged closer, more committed, and more determined than ever to face whatever came next, together. This section introduces an unexpected crisis that tests the family bond and heightens emotional intensity. emphasizing vulnerability, trust, and the urgency of cherishing every moment, while keeping the suspense alive for future developments. I can continue with topic 14, where Richard and Emily must confront a sudden one morning. As Richard and Emily shared breakfast with Oliver, Richard's phone rang. The display showed an unfamiliar number. He frowned, hesitated, then answered. Richard Hayes. Polished, professional voice greeted him. Mr. Hayes, this is from Falcon Enterprises. We have an urgent opportunity, one that could define the future of the company, and we need your decision today. Richard's brow furrowed, tension immediately creeping into his chest. I see. What's the nature of the opportunity? There's a major merger on the table, the voice continued. It's time-sensitive, high stakes. Your presence is required in New York immediately. The board is counting on you, Mr. Hayes. This is a pivotal moment. Richard's hand tightened on the phone. The words should have thrilled him. A business dream realized, yet they carried no excitement. Instead, a cold pit of conflict formed in his stomach. Emily's eyes met his across the table, sharp with anticipation, concern, and silent questions. Richard, Emily said softly, voice steady but tinged with urgency. This is your chance, isn't it? Your career, your empire, all of it. But what about us? Oliver. Richard set the phone down slowly, eyes heavy. I know. This is exactly the kind of decision I swore I'd handle differently. Before, I would have left everything behind, chased the opportunity, and ignored what mattered most. His voice wavered, a mixture of guilt and resolve. But now, I can't. I promised you and Oliver. I promised this family. And no merger, no deal, no ambition is more important than that. Emily's lips parted slightly, her breath catching. You're serious? She asked, voice trembling. You're choosing family over everything? Richard reached across the table, taking her hand gently. Every day, Emily. Every single day. Work, ambition. They pale in comparison to this. To you, to Oliver. I cannot risk losing what we've rebuilt. I won't. Oliver, perched in his high chair, tilted his head and asked, Daddy, that means you're staying with us? Richard smiled, a mixture of relief and fierce love washing over him. Yes, little man, I'm staying. I'm not going anywhere. I'm here always. Emily's eyes shimmered, a complex mix of hope and lingering caution. Richard, I've wanted to believe this for so long, but it's not enough to hear it. You have to live it every day. Every single choice, every moment, you have to choose us, always. Richard's grip on her hand tightened, the weight of his promise pressing deep into him. I will. I swear it. Nothing will come between us again. Not work, not threats, not the mistakes of the past. I've learned the cost of absence, Emily. I've lived it, and I will never go back. The following hours were filled with careful planning. Richard called his board personally, explaining the situation with deliberate clarity, refusing to be swayed or intimidated. He navigated the professional consequences with skill, but every call, every decision, was underpinned by his unwavering commitment to the family waiting at home. Emily watched, a quiet smile on her lips, her trust in him strengthening as she saw the man she had once doubted truly place their family above all else. That evening, they took Oliver to the park, a tradition they had begun to cement the routine of family presence. Richard swung Oliver high into the air, laughter spilling from the boy, a sound so pure and unburdened it made Richard's chest ache. Emily sat nearby on the bench, her eyes following the two of them, her own heart softening with each passing moment. Look at him, Emily murmured, voice thick with emotion. So full of life, so happy. And it's because of you, Richard. Your choices are shaping his world. Richard paused mid-swing, meeting her gaze. It's because of us, Emily. Every day it's about the three of us. Nothing else matters. Not ambition, not wealth, not regrets. Just this, our family. And I'll fight for it every single day. Emily's lips curved into a tentative smile, her hand reaching out to him. Then show me, Richard. Show me that this isn't a moment of emotion, Show me that it's permanent, that you are truly here, for us, for Oliver, for the life we deserve together. Richard stepped closer, his voice low and fierce. Emily, I've never been more certain of anything in my life. Every choice I make, every action I take, it will be for this family. I will protect it, cherish it, and never take it for granted again. You and Oliver are my world, and nothing, absolutely nothing, will ever change that. Oliver toddled over, wrapping small arms around Richard's leg. Family, he whispered, echoing the word like a sacred mantra. Richard knelt, holding both Emily and Oliver close, feeling the enormity of the promise he had made. To protect them, to be present, to never allow ambition, fear, or manipulation to break what they had rebuilt. And in that moment, as the sun dipped below the horizon and the park fell quiet, Richard understood fully. Their family was no longer fragile. It was forged through trials, strengthened by loyalty, and anchored in love, trust, and the unwavering choice to remain together, come what may. One afternoon, Emily was organizing Oliver's room, straightening his books and toys with meticulous care, when her phone vibrated. She glanced at the screen and froze. A text message, anonymous, yet unmistakably familiar. You think you're safe, Emily? Think again. The truth always surfaces. Emily's hand trembled as she showed Richard the message. His eyes darkened immediately, a combination of anger and concern clouding his expression. It's Vanessa, he said quietly, almost growling. She's back, trying to frighten us, manipulate us again. Emily clenched her jaw, her chest tightening. She never stops, does she? Every time we feel we're free, she finds a way to interfere. But Richard, what if she's right? What if she tries something irreversible? Richard stepped closer, his hands gripping her shoulders firmly. No, she doesn't control us anymore. She can try all she wants, but we are stronger, Emily. Oliver and I, we're not going to let her win. His voice was resolute, but a flicker of tension betrayed him. We need to be careful, yes, but fear cannot dictate our lives. Emily nodded, trying to breathe through the anxiety swelling in her chest. We need a plan, something to protect us, because I can't go back to constant worry. I won't. Richard drew her into an embrace, resting his forehead against hers. I promise, Emily, whatever she throws at us, whatever games she tries to play, I will shield you. I will not let her disrupt what we've built. Not our family, not our lives. Days passed with a heightened sense of vigilance. Then, one evening, as they prepared for dinner, a sudden knock at the door startled them. Richard moved to answer, only to find a courier holding a plain envelope. No markings, no sender information. Richard took it carefully, eyes narrowing. Emily stood beside him, pulse quickening. Together, they opened the envelope. Inside was a single photograph. A picture of Vanessa standing in front of their home, taken through a window, her expression cold, almost triumphant. A note accompanied it. I know everything, and you will see the consequences of ignoring me. Emily's breath hitched. Richard, she's watching us. She knows where we are. This is too close. What if she escalates? What if? Her voice faltered, tears threatening to fall. Richard held her face, forcing her to look at him. Emily, look at me. Nothing will happen. I won't let anything happen to you or Oliver. We've faced her before and we came out stronger. We'll do it again. Together. But she's unpredictable, Emily whispered, a tremor in her voice. And clever. She won't stop until we give her power, Richard interrupted firmly. We won't give her that power. We've learned, Emily. We know how to protect ourselves now, and I will not let fear control us. You and Oliver are my world, and I'll fight to keep it safe, no matter what she tries next. The tension lingered, but Richard's determination gave Emily a fragile sense of stability. That night, as Oliver slept peacefully, she lay beside Richard, heart pounding with residual fear and hope. Promise me, Richard, promise me you'll never let her ruin this. Not ever. Richard held her hand tightly, voice low and solemn. I promise. We've fought for this family through so much already. We survived mistakes, betrayals, and threats. Vanessa is just another challenge, but she will not break us. I will protect you both, Emily, with everything I have. Always. Over the following days, Richard increased security measures, personally overseeing their routines, ensuring that Vanessa's interference would remain distant and ineffective. Each precaution, each protective gesture reinforced Emily's growing trust in him, though anxiety remained, a subtle reminder of the fragility of their peace. One afternoon, while taking Oliver to the park, Emily watched Richard's interaction with their son and felt a quiet swell of gratitude. He was present, fully engaged, eyes never leaving Oliver, hands gentle, patient. She realized that these small, deliberate actions, being there, being consistent, being vigilant, were the real proof of his transformation. "Daddy, look!" Oliver shouted, running ahead to the swings. Richard followed, laughing, and Emily observed them, feeling warmth and hope bloom within her despite the lingering fear of Vanessa. Richard turned toward Emily, voice gentle but full of conviction. "See, Emily? This is why I choose us. Every moment like this is my priority. Nothing else matters. Not work, not fear, not the past. We have each other, and that is what I will protect above all else." Emily nodded, eyes glistening. "I see it, Richard. I feel it. But remember, it's always the actions, not words, that will prove it. Keep choosing us every day. That's the only way we survive Vanessa, and everything else that comes our way." Richard's eyes locked on hers, fierce and unwavering. "I will, every day. No one, nothing will ever come between this family again. I swear it." As they watched Oliver play, the threat of Vanessa lingering somewhere beyond their view, the weight of the promise settled heavily but comforting on them both. They understood now that survival wasn't just about avoiding danger. It was about building a family bond strong enough to withstand any test, no matter how unexpected, no matter how cruel. And in that realization, Emily allowed herself a fragile hope, trusting that together, they could face whatever Vanessa, or life itself, threw their way. One late afternoon, while Richard was working from home, Emily noticed something strange outside the window. A sleek black car parked a few doors down, its engine idling briefly before disappearing behind a corner. Her heart raced. She grabbed Richard's arm, her voice trembling. "Richard, she's here. I saw the car. Someone's watching us." Richard's jaw tightened, eyes narrowing. "Stay calm," he said firmly, though a surge of anger and protectiveness coursed through him. "Do not panic. If she's testing us, we'll handle it together." He reached for his phone, calling the security consultant. "I need every camera monitored and patrols doubled. No detail missed. We cannot let her get close to Emily or Oliver." Emily bit her lip, fear and frustration mixing. "I can't believe this is still happening. After everything we've endured, she won't leave us alone." Richard pulled her close, voice low but commanding. "She will not break us, Emily. We've survived every obstacle, every betrayal. She's just another challenge, and we will face it together. I won't let her hurt you or Oliver, ever." Hours later, as night fell and the city lights flickered through the windows, a sudden, sharp knock at the door startled them. Richard froze, instincts on high alert. "Stay here," he whispered, hand on the door handle. Emily clutched Oliver to her chest, heart racing. "Richard, be careful. Please." He opened the door slowly, eyes scanning the empty hallway. No one was there, but lying at their doorstep was an envelope. Richard picked it up carefully, noticing the distinct handwriting. A taunt, unmistakable. Emily's voice shook as she reached for him. "Richard, what is it?" He opened it and found a series of photographs. Vanessa standing near Oliver's school, taking pictures, a shadowed smile on her face. Accompanying them was a note. "I see everything. I know everything. She is mine, not you. Be careful, Richard." Richard's hands curled into fists, fury and fear battling within him. He looked at Emily, voice low, dangerous. "She's escalating. She's getting closer. She wants to frighten us, to test me. Emily's lips trembled, eyes wide. We can't keep living like this. Richard, constantly looking over our shoulders. What if she tries to take Oliver? What if... No! Richard cut her off, his tone resolute, unwavering. That will never happen. I won't allow it. This ends tonight. We cannot wait for her to make the next move. We have to act first, strategically, decisively. Emily's eyes searched his, a mix of worry and admiration. What are you planning? Richard, this sounds dangerous. Richard leaned closer, voice barely above a whisper, filled with intensity. I'm going to confront her. I'll make it clear that she cannot come near us, that our family is untouchable. I will protect you and Oliver no matter what. But I need you to trust me. Completely. Emily swallowed hard, fear and faith battling inside her. I trust you, Richard, but promise me you'll be careful. We can't risk everything for revenge or pride. Richard cupped her face, voice softening. It's not revenge, it's protection. I'm not doing this for me. I'm doing it for us, for Oliver. We've survived the past. I will not let her destroy the future we're building. I promise you, Emily, I will come back to you. Always. Later that night, Richard slipped out quietly, armed with careful planning, his mind sharp and focus unwavering. Emily watched from the window, heart pounding, silently whispering, "Please, bring him back safe. Please."